Hi, welcome to the Abrique workshop. This week we're talking about photo V-carve. Now I'm going to show you the result here, and I'm not real happy with this. It's got some things about it that I really like, and then other things that I don't. And considering it's one of the first ones, I'm reasonably happy with it. But what I was trying to do is to be able to superimpose a photograph on top of a 3D model to create an image that's realistic. And I'm going to show you how this process went and how this was created. But I thought I'd show you the end product first. So this is a boat or ship, the Northwester, and it caught my attention because it was once owned by John Wayne. I thought I would try and do something with it. And here's the final product. So you can see that it's like a relief. You know, the model itself sticks out from the frame. And it has on it, this, I'll just tell you, that this was a photograph that was superimposed on top of the model. And it was photo V-carved using the software that we have. Now, what you can see from this is that the model sticks out from the page, and the photo V-carve follows that. And that's what I intended for it to do. And like I said, you know, not 100% happy with this. I think I sanded it too much and removed a lot of the detail. And in my own defense, I don't know how well this portion came out when the photograph was imposed upon it. But, you know, it gives you an idea as to what can be done with this type of process. And, you know, I'd like to experiment with it some more. My idea was to have this, could do people's boats, their own boat, and it wouldn't be a similar model. It would be using a photograph of their boat, you know, for them. What I thought I would do is show you the process that I used. Here are the files that I started, or all the files that I used to create this. This is the image that I used of the Northwester boat. And this, I just got this off of the internet. And if you compare the image here to this, you can see that there's, you know, there's people in the image here, and there's a background and so forth. So what I did is I went into a photo editing software, and I removed all the details that I didn't want to have there. The image on the left is the original one, untouched in color. And I knew that black and white is needed in order to create the 3D model within the software, because what it does is it creates, or it uses what's called a depth map. And I'm going to explain what that is. And so here on the left, the reason I brought these up is I just wanted to show you the unedited one. And then on the right is the edited one, where I've photoshopped out the people and reduced, you know, I've gotten rid of the things in the image that I don't want there. You notice I got rid of the lines here and simplified that. Over here, I put it so it looks like you're looking through into the water where these other people were standing. I got rid of this guy here. Obviously, I got rid of all these people. And I also filled in here, so you're not seeing this person in here. And somewhere along here, I should have the whole image removed back. I'm just looking at, oh, okay, so here's another image. This is probably further around. You can see where these were exported with no background at all. And one of these, I can't tell you exactly which one, was imported into the software in order to be used as the photograph to create the photo V-carve on top of the model. But the first question remains is how do we create in the software this, you know, three-dimensional aspect of the hull with the, you know, with the hull here and the wheelhouse up here and, you know, this in the background. And that's what I'm going to talk about right now. And what is used is, it's called a depth map. And down below here, I'm just going to open up the software. I use Vectric Aspire. And this software here is what will actually create the G code, which is used to program the router. What I wanted to explain to you was depth maps. And we created a depth map in order to create the 3D model of the hull, to make it stand out from the background there. And we're going to get into how that was done. But what I thought I would do first is to show you some examples of things that are depth maps that are on the internet. So these two things down here are depth maps that somebody spent a lot of time creating. So what do you do with a depth map? All right, well, I'm going to show you. So here's the Aspire, Vectric Aspire software. Whatever you produce here will produce the G code that'll go and that is used to program the router and produce the products that the router will cut. The first thing I need to do is just create a new file. And it doesn't really matter because I'm just trying to show you an example of what's going on here. Is you can bring the depth map into the software. And then go to modeling. And then create component from selected or imported bitmap. So I click on that, and nothing seems to happen until you go to the 3D view. So here's the 2D view, and here's the 3D view. The software has interpreted that depth map to produce this image here. What the software does is it interprets the lighter areas as high out from the page, and the darker areas as back in the background. So if you look at this here, and I can rotate this around a little bit. So at the belly there, we could see that that was a white area, and the black area that was the background is farther away. And so what the router would do is it would come in here and it would carve this thing out to look like that after I've set it up for the appropriate tools and so forth. And there's a lot. Well, right now, this is pretty much ready to go. Somebody spent a lot of time, like I said, doing this. And this is hard to do. It doesn't look like much, but I tried to do one, and it's a lot. It's very time consuming. But you can do different things with this model. Over here, let's just select that. So this will control how thick it will be. So you can change it here, and you can decide that it's going to be that thick coming out of the page. And this is all your preference as to what you want it to do. So we'll just leave it there. This is just an example. We're not trying to use this. And then you can also go into here and you can sculpt the model. Oops. So I got to select this and then sculpt the visible model. So now what you can do is you can actually it's like modeling clay, I guess is the best way to describe it. So you can select this tool here, come over here, and you can smooth things out that you don't want there. Or you could remove it, and it's kind of, I'm not like an expert at this, believe me. So for this area here, I wouldn't want to touch it at all. I would probably just leave it alone. But the point I'm trying to make is that, you can go in here and you can edit things. This portion here you wouldn't want. So I'm gonna try and remove this. Let's look at it from the top. I guess I can go like this here, and it is removing those, but it's also removing the material down below here. We could just carve this out the way it is right now onto a block of wood. So what I'm trying to get across with these depth maps is that they're very useful. There's a lot of them all over the internet. I mean, if you find something you like, this software has the ability to bring it in and you can carve it out. And most of them are free. But once you get it into software, there's a lot of control that you can have over it. You already saw how I can kind of manipulate this. And, if I spent more time with it, I could do it better. If I wanted to make this into a plaque, I could do that fairly easily. So what I would do is I would just draw a rectangle around the image that I want. And let's say I wanted the plaque to be that big, and I wanted to have this standing out from it. Now I would go into the section of the program where you control the tool bits. which is really what, carves out these images here. So again, I'd go into the 2D image and I would select 3D finishing tool, and it gives me, it says error. Okay, so the model thickness is too big. So current height is 0.8. Oh, and the material, okay, so I can select this to be 1 inch thick. That's why I'm getting that error message. I'll set that to be 1. Okay, so that error goes away. This positions the model in the workpiece. This is representative of the workpiece. The darker area is the workpiece that's untouched, and this represents the model that's there. So this is just the material setup. Good, so I'll click on OK. And now for the finishing piece, what I'll do is I just want it to carve where the vector is. And so I could select different tools. Right now it's got the tapered ball nose. That's good enough. Again, this is just an example. So I'm going to go around this selected vector. So what this will do now is it'll only carve around where that vector is. So I can click on calculate, and you can see down here, it's figuring out how to do this. And what's nice about this software is you can get this preview. It says preview toolpath, and that's what we're going to do. So right now it has, you can't really see it, but well, here you go. I can zoom in. This is the tool path here. So this line here represents the tool as it moves in one direction along this line, whatever way it decides to do it. So it's either going to move to the right or the left. And it's carving out the amount, and it's carving out the material as it goes along. And you can set how fine how much it carves, but right in here, which is the step over. So that right now it's set at 10%. So that means that, so when that tool moves to the next line, it'll only move over 10% of the width of the tool, which is a very small amount, which means that you get a very high resolution. So here what I'll do is I'll just set it to be higher. I'm not sure what these two do, but I'm going to put them to be the same. That's what I always do, and it seems to work. I know what the step over is, but anyhow, that's close enough. Okay. So now I'm going to calculate it again, and you can see here that the spacing between the lines has increased. So now what we can do is I usually just hit reset, and now we can say preview selected toolpath. So this gives you an idea as to what it'll look like when it's carved out. And you can see that it only carved out within that vector that I selected, which is this one right here, which is what I instructed it to do. And you can see this is kind of coarse. Now this is only a preview of what it would look like, but it's pretty accurate. It'll take into account the thickness of the tool. If you select a thin tool or a small diameter tool, it'll cut finer and give more detail than like a bigger one. Like sometimes you do want the bigger one because then it can remove more material to allow the thinner one more time to do it. But anyhow, you can see where this is all kind of coarse. But if I go back to my settings that I had before, and I'll put them back to 10. Recalculate. So now I'll select Z, and I can just hit preview selected toolpath, and bang, you can see that this image is a lot more detail in it, and it looks pretty good. 10% is a good setting to use when you want to get the detail like this. Now, why don't you just set everything to be 10%? Well, come over here and I'll show you. Here's the time. So this one, the total machining time, just for this toolpath, the 3D finish toolpath with the tool we selected, is 1 hour. So if I had done the same thing for that other one, it might have been 30 minutes. And you could see that the result of the more coarse one, it wasn't too good, whereas this one's pretty good. So this would take an hour to do. And then, so now you have to start making decisions. How much time do I want to spend on this, machine time, and so forth. So that gives you an idea as to what you can do with bitmaps. This concludes part 1 of the video. Please join us for part 2.